I'm gonna fall my own. Go save your soul. You don't wanna go where.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the B&E podcast. This is episode 8. As always, I'm Bryce, and I'm joined by Evan. Evan, it's another episode, another week. How you doing?
Well, I'm fine. My golf game is definitely really good, but Big Ten football ain't so good right now. So
yeah, let's focus on that one. I mean, my golf game is going pretty good too, but not the Big Ten, and that's your conference, Indiana's conference. So let's hear your thoughts on it.
Man, I'm honestly just devastated. Like, for me, going to college was just it was so much more than just, you know, the partying, the fraternity, the yada, 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 all of the different stuff. It was, for me, I wanted the Big Ten experience. That was the number one thing I wanted when picking a college. You know, I wanted the party school, and I wanted especially good football. And not even good football, but just to be in the Big Ten. Like, growing up, I was a Michigan and Wisconsin fan. My dad's a huge Michigan fan. My mom went to Wisconsin. So right there, that's where the whole Big Ten influence came from. So, you know, for me to get that news that the Big Ten isn't going to happen this year, it's devastating because, you know, it's something that you really want. It's you know, in a Big Ten and a Power 5 conference, football drives the school revenue as well. So without football, you know, what else are we going to do? And this just comes to show to you how bad the
you know what they're going to do, right?
Really is. Yeah, they're going to push it to a spring.
Or no, I'm saying what the universities are going to do.
No,
they're just going to keep raising tuition. That's what they're going to make up the money.
Yeah, jack it up 2% more, Indiana University. Thank you very much.
And Syracuse, even worse.
Which it's so beyond to me that they can't get football, because if you look, every other major sport is doing it, and the numbers at these respected schools aren't that bad right now. Like, they're pretty low for their number of positive tests per the entire school. I don't know full data, but I know Michigan published something a couple of days ago where John Harbaugh came out, the head coach there, and said, you know, here's how many people have tested positive out of like 400. I think it was like 11 or 12 positive tests, which is really low. But at the same time, I do understand the concerns of what's going to happen when 20,000+ students come onto campus. You cannot control all of these football players. You know, they can't go straight from their apartments right to the field and back. Like, it doesn't work that way. They need to get food. There's other kids in the apartments, in the buildings, in the dorms and stuff.
Exactly.
So I do understand why there's not going to be a season this year. I see that side. I'm just, to me, as a Big Ten fan and as an Indiana fan, I'm devastated.
Yeah, and I think any fan of sports, not even a fan of college football, is upset about this news. I heard an interesting viewpoint. I forgot from who, but on the Michael Kay show yesterday, someone was talking about the fact that you could better control the players if they're still in that system, if they're still being, you know, told what to do by the coaches, if they're still being monitored by the coaching staff. And I have to disagree with that. I have to agree with you that no football season is the safest way to protect the students. And the fact of the matter is, I don't think anyone can really trust the NCAA in making any decision regarding this, because any decision they make is going to be fueled by money. They really only care about money. They're not really focused on the health and safety of the players and the coaching staff. And quite frankly, I'm glad that at least 2 of these conferences, the Big Ten and the Pac-12, came together and were like, all right, we can't do this. Like, it's too big a risk.
Aside, yeah.
Yeah, put the money. The money is not important. Yeah. Because you can continue that revenue next year. I understand that you're going to be operating at a loss. You're going to be operating at a deficit. But next year, you'll pick it right back up. And for a lot of these big schools, these Power 5 schools, you know, money should not be an issue. 1 year of not making revenue should not be an issue, considering how much money these universities are raking in.
Yeah, and you also have to remember, there's a certain point where the player safety is a big part. Like, we don't know the long-term effects that COVID has. We only know the short-term, you know, people who had it in March, it's roughly about 5.5, 6 months right now. As September turns, it'll be 6 months. So we don't know how this can impact, you know, people for a long period of time, especially the young generation. We don't know because, you know, unfortunately,
your dogs must be very upset about
my dogs are very upset about college football. They cannot make it to the show today, but we're still here. We're still going. Anyway, yeah, they're barking in the background. I don't know. There's like people here or something. But it's an everyday thing.
Yeah. At this point, it's very normal.
At this point, we'll get the other one on next week. It'll be fine. But at the same time, you know, player safety is a big part of it. Like I've already been saying, you have to protect these guys. We don't know the long-term effects of COVID, and we can't let these young athletes, go out on the field, potentially contract the virus, or even get it at school, contract it, then go play and give it to God only knows how many other athletes Then they go back to their campus, and it's just widespread. So I agree with, NCAA's decision to shut down the season, because you don't know how this can impact players 10 years down the road or 5 years down the road, if it can hurt their, potential professional career.
Yeah.
Don't know.
It's just how the cookie is going to crumble this time. It's the only way forward at this point for most of these schools. I know this decision was not taken lightly. They definitely, considered it for months and months, but they ultimately came to the right decision. And the right decision is to not have football, to postpone. I understand by them saying postponing, they're not having it. It's not possible. You can't have it in the spring.
It's irresponsible. I believe Stephen A. Smith said that it was irresponsible to have it in the spring. Don't quote me on that, because I think he said that. But somebody said that it was irresponsible to have it in the spring, because remember, you have to turn around in 3 months later. So let's say you start in January, right? Is week 1. Mid-January. That'll roughly go to about late May, early June. Now you're asking these guys to turn around 2 months later and play another full season?
Yeah.
That's terrible. You can't play college sports this year. You absolutely cannot.
Yeah. And I think
no college sports. Maybe spring sports.
No. I disagree.
Maybe spring sports. I think possibly spring sports can happen.
There's 100 people on any given college football roster. There's only 20 on a college basketball roster. There's only 10 on the college golf team.
I'm not saying
I'm just using your words. You said all college sports should not happen. You didn't say all, but you said college sports should not happen.
I said in the fall, college sports. Here, let me correct myself. In the fall, college sports should not happen. There should be no college sports this fall and really this winter. I think by, next February, you could potentially have some college sports. Maybe baseball can be played, maybe a couple other sports, softball. But that I see that pretty much being it. The social distancing sports, really.
Golf will happen.
Golf hopefully will happen.
In business.
Hopefully I'll be in business. I don't know.
Be chilling.
But
yeah, you got that
as
beat.
Of right now. I do have that beat. As of right now, I don't see any college sports happening. It's just sad. That's all it really is.
Yeah, and I think both of us can agree as huge sports fans. I'm not a huge college football guy. I never have been. More of a basketball guy, but just not having that happen. It's just like these past 4 months before sports returned. Not having sports is to not feel normal. And if we're not going to have college football, if I'm not going to be able to turn on a college football game on any given Saturday, especially watch a Syracuse game, go to a Syracuse game, go to a tailgate, it's going to be different. It's not going to be normal, and we're going to have to learn, just like everything else, to accept it.
Yep.
I do think that, like you said, I just think it's irresponsible for them to say that they're going to postpone it until the spring, because if you look back at pandemics, especially this one, I don't think that a vaccine is going to just solve everything. If a vaccine comes out in January and February, I don't think that by March and April everything's going to be ready and back to go by normal. To go back to normal, and it's just not possible for a sport that has that many athletes on a given team, on a given university's roster, to still operate. So it's not going to happen for college football. I do think college football is one of the only things that you can't push back. I do feel like if they wanted to push back college basketball and have March Madness in June, I think that's a possibility. If you could potentially do a March Madness bubble or a June Madness bubble, you could do that, definitely. And every team that loses goes home. You test them immediately, but hopefully by then we're not going to have a problem like that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, realistically, if we're looking at an actual timeline, I'm not a scientist, everyone knows this, but I can guarantee you that by March and April, that we're still not going to have control of this pandemic. Yeah. And quite frankly, we're not going to have control of our student athletes, who are still going to want to go to parties. They're still going to want to do things with kids who didn't get the vaccine. And the vaccine won't even have 100%, effectiveness. Yeah. So that's going to be a problem in and of itself. Again, it's not going to be possible for these college athletes to contain themselves. They really aren't, the ones to have a lot of, self-responsibility. They go out in parties, they go to frat parties, and they're not going to want to stop that. That's a part of the normal college life. Just like all of us, we want to enjoy ourselves, but for them, the risk is more, the risk lies more within playing the sport instead of sitting in your dorm and being mandated by the school to, quarantine or whatever they have to do, or whatever universities are giving out their policies as.
Absolutely agree. And, at the end of the day, we keep repeating this, but it's true. It comes down to public safety. It comes down to everybody. It comes down to me and you. Everyone has to wear masks. Everyone has to do their part. Hopefully, there won't be, there's not going to be college football this year, but next year you can bet at the first tailgate. It'll be wild. It'll be great. Just a feeling of normalcy. Because I do believe we'll get back to that feeling of normalcy by the end of next year, which is unfortunate that it might be a really long time, but we just have to persevere, and it's the new normal, and it's just how the world works, and there won't be fans in the crowds anymore in the stands. But at least
definitely not in the United States.
Everywhere else,
not
in the U.S. Yeah, most likely everywhere else, but that's because we couldn't handle the virus correctly. Not naming any person in specific.
Not naming any presidents in specific.
You know who you are, Donald. That's all. All right. So let's get into it. Let's move on from college football and into Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball is absolutely booming right now. There's a lot to talk about. And let's first start with the Houston Astros. COVID cases are booming, but we'll get right there.
Get that in a second, yeah.
Astros, over the weekend, the Astros played the Athletics in a couple game series. If you didn't know, it's all over Instagram and Facebook and social media. Astros hitting coach Alex Cintron was suspended 20 games after egging on A's. I think he's an outfielder, Laureano. And Laureano was suspended 6 games. So, Bryce, what do you have to make of that about another team coming after the Astros?
Well, this one, this organization continues to find ways for people to hate them. And this time it lied within the hitting coach, whose name is Alex Cintron. This guy, after Laureano got hit 3 times in this series, and that was the second time he's gotten hit in that game.
In that game.
Yes. So that was the second time he got hit that game. He was walking to first base. He was telling the pitcher how to throw a slider. He was like, you have to release, you have to, So, and then, snap the wrist. And of course, the Astros hitting coach had to make a comment about Laureano's mom. And if anyone else is that livid about getting hit 2 times by a baseball, which hurts in a game, and someone on the sidelines is like, hey, your mom, whatever. I go at him too. It was completely irresponsible for a hitting coach and someone who is on a coaching staff. You have to set the example for the players. And if you go after someone and you start trash talking someone from the sidelines, then obviously that person who's obviously, I keep saying obviously because this is just, you can't really see this.
It's common sense.
It's common sense. You have to see this the one way because there is only one way. And I do not think that Laureano should have gotten suspended. I understand that there's a 112-page memo and document that the MLB released that, that's the guideline for how they are going to return and how they have been returning. And one of the things is that you're not allowed to have brawls. But if someone makes a comment about your mother, you're going to go at them.
Yeah.
No one's thinking about, the 112-page memo said not to. They're going to go at them either way. So I think that obviously Rob Manfred is an idiot. It was the wrong thing to do to suspend Joe Kelly. It was the wrong thing to do to suspend Laureano. And it was the right thing to do to suspend Cintron for 20 games, which is absurd. That's a third of the season. Yeah. It's a third of the season. He's an idiot. Why would you ever do that? And then when Laureano went at him, he hid behind the 3 other coaches. He was talking shit behind 3 other people. He was like, yeah, come at me. While 3 other people were holding him back.
And I do agree with you on most of your points there. The only thing I disagree on is I still think Laureano should be suspended. You said he should be suspended. I don't think 6 games.
I think 3 games.
4 games. I completely agree. I also think that Dusty Baker has to be suspended. Look, and this is nothing against Dusty Baker. He's the former manager of the Nationals, the Cubs. He's been in the league for so long, but he has to do a better job at managing the Astros team. The entire organization should not be able to even, go after people this season. They are on such thin ice, and the fact that they're still gliding on it and they haven't sunk yet is beyond me. I think Dusty Baker has to be suspended because you have to set the example. Dusty Baker, that's 2 brawls the Astros have been in, and he has not been able to keep them under control. Granted, yes, other teams have egged on the Astros a lot, and for good reason, right? They cheated in 2017. They deserve everything that they're getting. I do agree with that. However, you have to suspend him from the top. And I don't know why Manfred hasn't suspended Dusty Baker yet. He suspended Dave Roberts back with the Joe Kelly thing. Dave Roberts served his 1-game suspension. And the fact that Dusty Baker, the manager, not even a bench coach, the manager hasn't been suspended yet is beyond me. And I don't really get why Manfred is so soft around the Astros. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I think he sees the situation as something that is more better off, just getting past it and trying to move on and not suspending them or trying to, rain down punishment on stuff that is in the past. And I think that's why he is trying to shield them from all this other stuff. And I don't understand why, because they keep, delving lower and lower and lower as an organization. And this is just only the tip of the iceberg. There's just so many other things. They lost their GM, they lost their coach, they lost, one of the assistant GMs who made a comment about a female reporter last year. It starts from the top. It starts from the owners, and this needs to stop. But if it continues to happen, if they continue to be immature about situations that happen on the field, then they should still be punished just like any other team would be punished.
Yeah.
Because this isn't different than any other team. I mean, it is different than other teams, but the situation that happened with the A's is not different than anything else that would ever happen in a baseball game. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, but all right, let's just move on. We've covered them so much. Manfred sucks. The Astros suck. The Cardinals also suck, but not for the same reasons.
St. Louis
keep getting
boring.
COVID. Yeah, they keep getting COVID. What's going on there, Evan? I don't know.
So, as an avid NL Central fan, as a diehard Cubs fan, the Cubs series this weekend got postponed because more Cardinals players are testing positive. And I don't know what it is about St. Louis, but they just suck. Like, they're 2-3 right now. They've played 5 games.
Other teams played like 20 games.
Teams have played 20 games, and the Marlins are back on the field.
Yeah, I know.
The Miami Marlins are back on the field.
Playing in Florida.
If you're a St. Louis Cardinals fan, you should be ashamed of your organization and your team. The fact that the Cardinals players went out and went to bars and went to gamble one night, that's so ridiculous. Dumb. Like, yeah, we expected it from the Marlins, but not you, St. Louis. We did not expect it from you. I expected it from Miami. Everyone expected.
Everyone did.
The Marlins to be a shit show, and they're still 7-4. They have a winning record.
They're playing better than anyone. Aren't they? They're in the lead in the NL Central, right? They're at the top of the division, right?
NL East. They're the number 1 team in the NL East.
Oh, they're in the NL. I don't.
Which blows my mind, St. Louis. Like, get your shit together.
Well, you also forget that the Mets are in that division. So I mean, they suck. The Braves are playing fine,
back, and the Nationals are mediocre.
I mean, also the Marlins have only played 11 games. They're only 7-4.
You're right, and they played a lot against Baltimore, so we haven't seen them play good talent yet. And I think they're playing a couple games set against Toronto right now, and Toronto is a big fence team. I don't know if they're going to be good or bad, but anyway, back to the whole St. Louis thing. That, like we talk about with the Astros and with Manfred, it comes from the top. But the player safety, the players themselves, it comes from the leadership on the team, the player leadership. You see teams like the Twins and the Cubs take care of business on the field because they're taking care of business off the field. They all follow the same guidelines. They all hold each other accountable. Even the Marlins are finally holding each other accountable. But unfortunately, with the Cardinals, they're not. And I don't know if that's, something to do with the Cardinals players. I don't know how the clubhouse works. I don't know anything about really the Cardinals front office, but the guys have to hold each other accountable. And it's happening now with the Indians too. Mike Clevenger, the ace of the number 2 of that rotation.
Yeah.
10-day is out for, 10 days because he has to quarantine. Him and another pitcher. I forgot the other pitcher. Zach Plesac. They have to quarantine because they went out in Chicago over the weekend against their game set against the White Sox.
Yeah,
So and Clevenger, and I was watching something last night from Trevor Bauer that Clevenger is supposed to be the leader of that team. And
one of the leaders,
one of the leaders. And one of your leaders is now going out to Chicago to go, explore downtown when you're not allowed to. Like, what does that show? What good example? So that's gonna be one of the biggest headlines going down is the teams that are stronger as a team, the leaders are present. Those teams are going to be doing better than the teams whose leaders don't really care, like, possibly St. Louis and like Cleveland. And that's going to be the biggest make or break for the postseason this season.
Yeah, and I think that this relates to the Astros situation very well in that the leadership stems from the top going down. If you don't have a manager that implements these rules and these protocols and says, if you break anything that the MLB has said, then you're done. If other teams have been able to sustain this level of safety, then these teams like the Cardinals and the Indians should have been as well. Yeah. And like I said, it starts from the manager. And then the coaching staff has to implement it. The coaching staff has to make sure that they're following these rules. They have to make sure that they're not leaving the hotel and going to gamble. And that's why this is becoming such a big problem, because these teams have not been able to actually follow the rules. These players don't care. And we're seeing that the best teams in the league, the teams that take themselves the most seriously and take this whole situation the most seriously, are the teams that are being the most safe, and the teams without any at all these COVID cases.
Yeah.
The Yankees had Chapman, which that happened before the restart. He got that from a family member, which is not, you can't blame him from getting it from a family member, went out with his friends, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it is what it is, but you do have a huge problem with the Cardinals now, because they've only played 5 games. They're going to have to play at least 10 to 15 doubleheaders. They're going to have the most rough stretch of baseball in all of baseball history ever. Like, who else has played 55 games in like 45 days? That's absurd. That's absurd.
All right, but we talk about the Cardinals, who are playoff contenders too. The Indians are playoff contenders too. The rumor has it now the MLB is looking to put the postseason in a bubble. Bryce, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that this is probably the smartest way forward. I don't think that it's possible to have a bubble with 30 teams. I think it's possible to have a bubble with, let's say, 8 teams or 6 teams or even 10.
It's going to be it's an 18 playoff. So you'll have the potential is that they'll have 2 bubble cities, kind of like the NHL is doing, and the World Series will be at the respective home fields.
I think realistically, they should do it in New York. Like, cases are down in New York. You have Yankee Stadium, you have Citi Field, you have a bunch of minor league stadiums in the area. I think it's definitely possible to do one of the host cities in New York. Let's say it's the AL. They decided to be AL in New York, and
you can do the NL in Chicago.
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible for this, but you still have to follow the safety protocols. You have to make sure that they're all staying in that hotel wherever they're staying. And if they don't, if they're breaking the rules like they have been, like some of these teams have been doing, then
it's their issue. You
send them home. You can't have any leeway, because this isn't like Disney where you have a whole resort. You have golf courses where you could just chill at. This is going to be a hotel next to a stadium where players are going to have to commute from the stadium back to the hotel, back from the hotel to the stadium, and that's it. I don't see the Major League Baseball allowing the players to go anywhere else besides the stadium or the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
But frankly, it's not achievable.
Yep.
Especially with how dumb these teams have been so far.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I like the idea of a postseason bubble, kind of like what the NHL is doing. I think it definitely should limit the amount that these guys are going to be able to go out. Even though New York and Chicago are 2 really big cities, and these players are going to want to explore around if they haven't yet been there, which most of them have. So that's not even an issue within itself. So I do think the postseason is a good idea in a bubble. But at the same time, the teams have been operating pretty well so far. I don't think it's a necessity yet to go to a bubble, but I definitely think it could be in the future. All right, let's do a quick division head-to-head right now. Going into the season, Bryce, the NL Central was projected to be the top team, the top division in Major League Baseball. But do you think the NL West has the edge over them right now?
I mean, yeah, you have some of the best teams in the NL West. You have the Dodgers, you have the Giants or whatever.
They're 500.
Yeah, I guess. But, you have some good, solid teams over in the NL West. The NL Central, your Cubs, not doing too well right now.
Dude, what are you talking about? The Cubs have the best record in baseball.
All right, but I'm just saying that them by themselves in a division where every other team is not solid, you're playing the worst teams. I'm just saying you're not.
I get your point.
But I'm saying I know baseball split this season into 3 different divisions, the West, the Central, and the East, and you're playing those teams within your area. And within your area, they're not, the best of teams. The Brewers have not been playing well this year.
Yep.
There's other teams that you guys have been playing that haven't been solid.
Yeah.
So it's going to take time to truly see how well you guys are playing.
Yeah, and I agree with teams. I agree with that. I do think right now the NL West does have a slight edge over the NL Central. I think that the Padres look really good. The Dodgers are always going to be there because they're just the Dodgers. You're not bad when you have a lineup that consists of Mookie Betts and Cody Bellinger. The Rockies look very, very surprisingly good. They look like they did really well. They look like they looked back in 2018 when they made the playoffs. And you also have the Diamondbacks, who many people are kind of sleeping on right now, but you can't sleep on the D-backs because they were a playoff contender last year. And when you look at the NL Central, yeah, the Cubs are 11-3. They're top in the division. They'll most likely make the playoffs, but because the top two teams from each division make the playoffs now. But then you have Cincinnati, who's about 8-9, Milwaukee, who's 8-9, the Cardinals, who are 3-5, and then the Pirates, who I believe are still under the Cardinals. God only knows how.
I think they're 3-14 right now.
They are about 3-14. But it's really quite funny how people were like, yeah, like the NL Central is gonna have 3 teams in the playoffs. They're not. It's that easy. They might have 2 best. I don't see 3 teams from the NL Central if they continue to play the way they are right now, making the postseason. I think 4 teams from the NL West are going to make the postseason. I do.
Yeah, but also, it's always too early to tell. I know we've already almost been through 1/3 of this full season.
Yep.
But, time will tell. And let's hope for a Cubs-Yankees World Series because we can have probably the best couple shows within that time. That's definitely what I'm hoping for. I definitely don't want to play the Dodgers. Don't want to play the Dodgers.
Nope, and I would love to.
I'd love to face Kershaw. Yeah. I'd love to face Kershaw.
Playoff Kershaw is great to face.
I'd love to face
2016 NLCS Game 6, the Cubs rocked him. That was a great night. Okay.
He's one of the worst playoff pitchers. Wow.
Which is so surprising, and it's kind of sad, too. But that's a conversation for a couple months down the road.
I'm just saying, him and Bumgarner are literally polar opposites.
Yeah.
Polar opposites. One is literally one of the most clutch. I know this is way off topic, but I just want to bring this up.
Yeah.
That Bumgarner's literally one of the clutchest performers in postseason history, but is solid during the regular season. And Kershaw's one of the best regular season pitchers we've seen in the past 15 years, and he's one of the worst we've seen in the postseason ever. So
yeah.
I just want to point that out. And wait, all right. So let's move on. Let's talk about Aaron Judge. I wanted to bring him up.
Yeah.
Is he the front runner for the AL MVP?
Absolutely. I don't think there's a question. I don't think he's leading the league with 9 home runs right now. I think his average is in the 300s. He's playing amazing. Like he's playing how he should be playing. If you look at any other contenders for that, really, the entire Astros lineup, who could be at like Correa, Bregman, Altuve, they're not performing, anymore how they should.
I wonder why.
I wonder why too. Well, it's hard to win when you can't cheat.
There's no banging the trash cans anymore. So
yeah, it's hard to see the difference between a fastball when you don't know it's coming.
Exactly.
I think other guys definitely that I want to keep an eye on before I really call Judge the runaway, which I think he could be in the next 15 games, run away with it. You got to look at Matt Chapman out in Oakland. I think he's putting himself together a pretty good season. Some other guys that you always have to kind of keep an eye out for in the AL. I'm kind of blanking, but definitely Tim Anderson has got to be up there somewhere, even though he just came back from the DL. But he could go on a nice run. He's a great player. So yeah, I think that would kind of be my top 3. But I think Judge right now is absolutely the MVP.
Yeah, and if he's able to sustain this level of greatness, similar to the greatness that he had in 2017, where he should have been the MVP. Thank you. Jose Altuve should not have been the MVP, and I think they honestly should revoke that from him. I think his midget ass should get that, trophy taken away from him, just like taking candy from a baby. He's that size. So yes, Judge front runner right now, but time will tell. Like time will tell with every other thing in this early restart for every other sport. He has 9 home runs. He's leading the league in home runs, but he's also still very fragile. He gets hurt a lot. Stan just went on the IL for a hamstring strain. Not surprising at all. His contract is the worst contract that I think the Yankees have had in years. But Aaron Judge still is yet to get that huge contract. He has to prove himself. He's playing so – obviously, he's the face of the franchise. He's the face of the MLB. Almost as big as Mike Trout. Almost as big as Mike Trout.
I would go with one other person who right now – yes. Tatis absolutely right now is the face of Major League Baseball. You cannot argue that.
Trout is. I'm just saying Judge might be up there.
I disagree, though. Trout is the face of the MLB in the United States alone. Trout is a household name to almost every American kid. But if you look at
Judges.
Okay, one or the other. They're both pretty much 1 and 2. Like it could be either or.
They go hand in hand. Yeah.
But if you look outside of the U.S. and down to the Spanish countries, not Latin America and all that. I want to be politically correct. My bad. But Fernando Tatis,
Spanish-speaking countries.
Spanish-speaking countries. Thank you. Fernando Tatis is absolutely the face of the MLB right now, and there's no question about it. I think he wins NL MVP this year. I do.
I
Bellinger's
think he's
playing
a
like
beast.
crap. Betts
Yeah,
is playing like
Betts has
crap
been
right
all
now.
right.
Yelich
It's
isn't
hard.
there.
It's hard. It's hard to go from one. If you've played your entire career in one city, it's hard to go across the country and play just as well there at the start. It's going to take a little time for Mookie to adjust, but once he adjusts, he's still going to be back to the second best player in baseball. I think he's still solid. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he's still playing well, but he's not playing up to his potential like Judge has been playing for the past 2 years. But I think Judge definitely could be the runaway winner if he stays healthy. But let's segue into the NBA. We've been talking about the MLB for a while. All right, so the Suns are 7-0. The Suns are 7-0. This has been by far the biggest surprise of the bubble. Devin Booker's playing it like an MVP. He's been a beast. Everyone else on that team, Ayton, Dario Saric, Ricky Rubio, their team is meshing very well right now. Do you think that they can keep this up if they make it into the playoffs to play the Lakers?
Well, as a non-NBA person, I'm going to have to kind of push over that question back to you. My personal opinion on it is they look good right now. Again, you're playing the Lakers, and I'm guessing the Lakers didn't really give a shit when they played them the last time because, LeBron doesn't, they already clinched the 1 seed. There's no really point for the Lakers to even try. So I think if the Lakers are really trying, absolutely not. There's no way they match up with the Lakers. But and you also remember, the Suns have to beat Portland in a potential game to get in.
Well, Portland won,
has the tiebreaker right now.
Yeah, but if Memphis has to lose, and Portland and Phoenix has to win in order for Phoenix to get in. And they had barely. I mean, they shouldn't have been in. They were been in the bubble.
0.3% chance to make the playoffs back in March. I believe I read that yesterday from CBS Sports. They were 0.3, and now they're a half a game out. So the AC in the West is gonna be a lot of fun for me to read about, not really to watch. But what do you think about this? You're our NBA guy here.
Yeah. So this has been one of the most one of the biggest surprises in the bubble, besides TJ Warren putting up 50 points in a game, but. When you watch this team, when you watch the Suns, you see a level of cohesion and teamwork that we haven't seen since the San Antonio Spurs in 2014. This team, not on that level, but everyone working together, the team really running through the best player in Devin Booker. And this I can't even comprehend what's going on right now with this team. They don't lose. They haven't lost once in the bubble. And still, they might miss the playoffs. So if they win and Memphis loses, and then they end up beating the Trailblazers, which I don't think the NBA wants. I think the NBA is very picky with how they want their playoff series. Look back at 2002 with the Kings and the Lakers, which was definitely rigged. But and also with the Pelicans, how they really needed Zion in the bubble, so they took 2 more teams. But the NBA, I feel like, knows what they want. I feel like the Suns probably won't make it into the playoffs, but if they do, I do still think that they get swept by playoff LeBron and AD and Danny Green and Dwight Howard and that whole team, because the Lakers have experience in the playoffs. And quite frankly, this Suns team does not have much experience besides maybe, let's say, Ricky Rubio. Aaron Baines has been in the playoffs a couple times. Like, I really don't know, besides those two, if anyone else has gotten a lot of playoff experience. Yeah. But great playing from the Suns. One of my good friends, Joey from Phoenix, me and him go to Syracuse together. Huge Suns fan. Always talked about how they were the team to beat. They were going to be the best team this season. And quite frankly, I gave him a lot of shit. But when I saw, I'm a Knicks fan, so I can't really talk. But once I saw how the Suns have been playing, I just have to respect greatness. I have to respect the team coming together, especially in these circumstances, being away from team basketball for 3.5 months, coming back into the bubble and performing at a higher level than when they left off. So good for them. Hopefully they make it for the story, but I do not think that they will even get to the playoffs. I think the Portland Trailblazers will beat them if they even do get into the playing game. So either way, Lakers going to beat them or the Trailblazers going to beat them either way. And I think the NBA would rather have Lakers Trailblazers instead of Lakers Suns. All right, so let's talk about Giannis last night. He headbutted Mo Wagner. Should he be suspended? I don't know if you saw it, but do you think he should be suspended for that?
Oh, did they ever say what his reasoning for it was? I missed that.
It doesn't matter what his reasoning was.
Yeah, I think he should be suspended.
It's not like he called him like a terrible word, like
you don't headbutt another guy like unless there was an actual reason in Mo Wagner, who I didn't think was any guy to go after, like Giannis especially. I just don't really understand why he did it in the first place. And I think if we got some reasoning behind why he did it, I'd be able to make a decision better. But if you just headbutted him for no reason, yeah, he should be suspended 1 game. Like, that's it, though. Like, nothing more than a game.
They won't suspend him longer than that.
No, they won't.
I don't think that they would. Giannis is
I don't think they're going to suspend him at all. He drives in so much value to the NBA.
Yeah, he's a generational talent. They need him playing in every game. But therein lies a big issue with the NBA and with these other sports leagues, being reluctant to suspend any star player over the amount that another player, like let's say a bench player, let's say Mo Wagner, headbutt Giannis. He'd be suspended already. He'd be suspended for the rest of the season already, right now. Giannis headbutted someone.
Absolutely.
The last time we saw like a headbutt in the NBA was John Starks to Michael Jordan. John Starks was suspended, and he was thrown out of the game right away. I mean, again, Giannis was thrown out of the game. Thank God. But, if he wasn't suspended, then I'd be on here really livid today. But I do think that he should be suspended. Will he be? Who knows?
Yeah.
Time will tell. All right, let's talk about Damian Lillard. This has been basically the biggest sports story. I think it's bigger. It's literally been bigger than every other thing that's going on right now, besides, let's say, college football. Damian Lillard put up 61 points last night, and the Blazers are inching closer and closer to the play-in game. Do you think that Damian Lillard's the best point guard in the bubble? And tell me why, if you have a reason. I'm not even he's the best.
Again, I'm a blank slate here, so I do think he's probably playing as the best point guard in the bubble right now. I think Devin Booker could come close to that. I don't think John Morant's playing that well. JJ Redick at the Pelicans isn't playing that well.
JJ Redick is a shooting guard. He isn't taking.
I don't really know. I don't really know that. Donovan Mitchell is he a point guard? I think he's a shooting guard too. Yeah. I honestly, coming from me, like, I don't mean much. Usually this
But as a sports fan, 61 points seems like a big deal, right?
61 points is very impressive. Yeah. You don't hear guys scoring 61 points every single night. So, yes, that's a big feat. And if he continues to play the way he does, he's absolutely leading the Trailblazers. They're doing a great job at coming in and inching and beating out the Memphis Grizzlies, who were the incumbent in that 8th seed when the NBA canceled the season. For now, I think he's playing as well as we've probably seen him ever. I really do.
Yeah, and he joins special history with his 61 points last night, as he joins Wilt Chamberlain for being the only 2 players in NBA history who scored 60 points 3 times in a season. Yep. Wilt Chamberlain probably did like 8 times, but that was during the 60s and players were short and white. So this is honestly one of the most impressive stretches we've seen, not scoring wise, but team leadership wise. He's literally carrying this team with the help of Melo. CJ McCollum is playing with a broken back right now, so he does not have help from his second best player. Jusuf Nurkic is playing extremely well basketball. Melo is playing the best. We've seen him since the Knicks. So I do think he has a lot of help, but he literally is carrying this team by himself. It's one of the most impressive scoring performances I've ever seen in my life last night. And the last shot he made was a 3 that bounced off the back of the rim, bounced over the shot clock and went back in. And once I saw that, I was like, okay, like everything's going for him right now. Like, there's nothing that could stop this guy. Like, even gravity.
And even to your point, like when guys like that are missing like that and getting the correct roles, it's like you talk about in any other sport. You can be, taking terrible shots, but if you're on that day, you're on. Like, you're not going to miss. And, that was just Lillard last night. He just wasn't missing from anywhere.
Yeah, and he's just another generational talent who gets a lot of disrespect from the fans and from players around the NBA, like Paul George and Patrick Beverley, who were giving him shit when he missed 2 free throws in a row in the game against the Clippers. So be it. He proved them wrong the next game, that's for sure, putting up 61. He also hit the game winner over Paul George last year. Why would Paul George ever say anything? He had a 40-footer over Paul George to win a series. Paul George just shut his mouth and stopped talking trash to one of the best point guards in the league, if not the best point guard in the league, besides Steph Curry. But Damian Lillard, keep it up, man. I know you're not listening to this, but please, like, for the sake of every NBA fan.
If you're out there listening,
please,
with
Damian.
The rest of our 7 fans.
And if someone out there who's listening knows him, please tell him. I'm begging you.
Like this and share this and share it with Damian Lillard.
Please tag him on Twitter and Instagram
and Facebook and anywhere
and Facebook anything.
let's get into some overtime topics. Here we go. Colin Morikawa, 23 years old, pretty much getting away in like Rookie of the Year on the PGA Tour. Pulls out the PGA Championship over the weekend. What are your thoughts on that and the future of golf? Do you think it's in safe hands with Morikawa?
Well, I think that this is the birth of a new star. The way he conducted himself over those final 5 stretch of holes was something that only parallels the likes of Tiger in how he was cold, collected, and just calculated. He was doing every single thing that he had to do. The last 2 holes after he made eagle on 16. By the way, if there were fans there, that is like getting the highest, the loudest of roars. That is, that is what you call a generational type of shot. You don't see that ever. That shot won him the PGA Championship. I mean, he had a great shot at 14 where he chipped in, which gave him the outright lead. But that eagle catapulted him to minus 13, and no one was going to touch him from there. Not even Paul Casey, who was at minus 12 at the time, who bogeyed the next hole. But those last 2 holes, after he was already in the lead, he saw himself in the leaderboard. We've seen a lot of young players. He's only 23. We've seen a lot of young players who see themselves at the top of the leaderboard. Let's look at the last time this happened, the Masters in 2019. Patrick Cantley, Xander Schauffele. They saw themselves on that leaderboard next to Tiger Woods, and they shit the bed.
Yep.
Colin Morikawa saw himself on the leaderboard, and he decided, I'm taking this. It's
with
2 perfect drives.
With not just Tiger, Brooks Koepka, who was the 2-time defending champion at the PGA.
Yes, him too.
Justin Thomas. Rory wasn't up there.
No.
Bryson DeChambeau. Oh, Justin Thomas was like +1. Bryson DeChambeau.
I'm saying this is on another level. This is like Jack Nicklaus, in terms of majors, because a lot of these players, yes, they can go out and win, a bunch of PGA Tour events during the year. Justin Thomas, DJ, they've all won majors, but we haven't seen them do this in a major. We've seen them run away with majors. We've seen DJ three-putt at the U.S. Open, I think in 2015 to win. So all he had to do was 2-putt. And he didn't to even get into a playoff. And he missed. He missed 2 putts. So, these players who have been on the cusp of greatness have not been able to match the intensity and greatness we have seen from Colin Morikawa over this 14-month period since he got his tour card. He's a new star. Like, he's the birth of a new star. Literally, you're looking at the stars, and there's the birth of a new star. That's Colin Morikawa right now. You see him up there. I think that this could be another Tiger Woods. Hopefully he doesn't lose his swing or something bad doesn't happen to him.
I hope he could be the next Tiger Woods, but
no one matches these.
No one's ever gonna be Tiger Woods. No one's gonna be that good. Like
no.
I do think Morikawa is a star. I think he's gonna be really well, and because he handles pressure well. That's the biggest key in golf is that you have to be able to keep playing your game. Yes. It is probably a little bit easier because there's no fans in the stands and there's no additional pressure that those fans come on. But I would love to watch Morikawa in another year or two when the fans are back on the course, when they're cheering him on, because that will be special.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's transition into our last topic. This is not usually something we'll cover, but this is media news. We're in media. He's in media. 4th and 20. Please follow. Yes, Deion Sanders joins Barstool as of today. What do you think about this?
I had no clue this happened until about an hour ago when Bryce wrote this on the rundown. So Bryce, please take it away.
Okay, come on. Like, all right. So
I have no clue.
In the biggest sports media news of the past, let's say 2 weeks, 3 weeks, besides Portnoy interviewing Trump, which I don't want to talk about, Deion Sanders is joining Barstool. I don't know about this. I have my doubts, reservations. I'm a Barstool fan, not a huge. I'm not a huge stoolie, but I'm a fan nonetheless. I think they may have gone too mainstream here. I like the way Barstool kind of floats under the radar. The interview with Trump didn't really do them any good. I think a lot of the higher ups, Big Cat, KFC, were not really happy with what happened with that interview. But I think that this just goes against what their values are. They've been like this, this rage against the machine type of organization, company with whatever happened with the NFL, with getting banned from the Super Bowl, with getting arrested from camping out in the NFL headquarters. It goes against every rebellious nature that they have. And they're a sports blogging site. They make fun of this, having these former players, act like they know everything about the sport and try to break it down and try to overanalyze every sort of detail. And I think that the addition of Deion Sanders, the addition of Primetime, one of the best corners and one of the best athletes in the history of sports, I don't think at the end of the day that this is in the best. I'm not one to speak on the best interest of Barstool. I don't work for them. I don't represent them. This is just my opinion. I don't think that this is the best idea. He is very, very entertaining, but it goes against every single value that they set.
Yeah, and what Barstool does that's so good is that they're able to connect with everyday sports fans who aren't the guy who everyone thinks that they should be this analytical presence. Like me and you, we talk right now. Like, we hope that hundreds and thousands of people watch our show, but 7 people watch our show. They connect with us. They connect with the little guys in sports. And by bringing in Deion Sanders, I do think it's going to hurt them because, yeah, it's cool to see Deion Sanders in Barstool. Like, that's cool. But at the same time, no one watches Barstool for, actual, sports insight, right? Like, you watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
You watch it for a little bit of that, yes, but you watch it for the comical presence. You watch it because it's
and you just want to talk with people who are, you feel that are very, a lot. Yeah, very, very similar to you. You people just want to talk about sports. They want to shoot the shit, and hiring someone who has so much experience in broadcasting and working for a network. When I can't see I can't possibly relate this to the last time that this is happened with someone at Barstool. Pat McAfee came straight from the league. Willie Colon, he came straight from the league. These guys, Dallas Braden, straight from the league. These guys retired and then went there. So they have adapted that mindset. Pat McAfee has adapted that Barstool. He's the best. He's adapted that Barstool mindset. The mindset of being a common fan, of not overanalyzing stuff, about being funny, and he's molded that into his own personality, which he's always been. But he's brought that to another level. And hiring some guy who's been sitting behind a desk on a TV screen for years and years and years, even though he's entertaining, is not the right move. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I agree. But, there's going to be a couple, we'll see how that plays out. We'll see how long Deion's actually at Barstool before he goes back to ESPN. Because he really should still be at ESPN. That's my personal opinion. But 2 more things before we wrap up. 1, The Rock purchased the XFL for $15 million. Bryce, what are your really, really quick thoughts on that?
Do you smell what The Rock is cooking? He's got a lot of money, so I do smell the money. Good for The Rock. Good for Vince McMahon, who was able to sell it to someone he trusts, I guess, because, The Rock was with him for 10 years, I guess. But good for. I hope he's able to turn this around. In these times, they're always going to be running on a deficit, without fans, without revenue coming in from attendance and from food stands. It's going to be hard to maintain a sports league that isn't one of the 5 really major U.S. sports. So hopefully, The Rock is able to use his rock bottom to bring this company back.
Yeah, and with The Rock, his dream was to play football, and it'll be a big thing for The Rock, but it'll also be a big thing for Under Armour too, who sponsors The Rock, who's the biggest sponsor. So you can bet your ass that Under Armour is gonna be right there with him, like, take us with you, Rock, take us to the promised land. All right, final thing before we go. Last night, playoff hockey officially started as the Stanley Cup qualifiers ended a couple days ago. The Tampa Bay Lightning and Columbus Blue Jackets played a 5 overtime game. So if you do the math correctly, that's 8 20-minute periods of hockey. They had a 7th period stretch to go along with that. What are your thoughts on that quickly?
At some point, don't you think that even if it's playoff hockey, you should probably have a shootout? Don't you think that after these they were skating up the ice like they were 80-year-old men. They were so tired. At some point, end the game, give us a shootout, and let us all go home. They had to postpone the Bruins game to the next morning because they couldn't play it after. How absurd is that?
It's crazy, too. The Flames, whoever they were playing, I think it was the Canucks, that game was started at 5. The Lightning game started at 2. The Flames game ended at 8:30. The Lightning game didn't end until 9:15. 9:15. That's a 7-hour game.
No other
that's
sport.
crazy.
I mean, you could see that in baseball because there's no they're just not possible. There's also no time limit in baseball, but there's time limits in hockey. At some point, don't you think that one of those pucks, one of those shots is gonna ricochet into the net and the game's gonna be over? No, not for 3 hours after the regulation ended.
You'd think they'd end it in the first or second period, but then the first or second overtime, then it goes to 3, 4, and finally we're at 5, and it finally ends. Congratulations to the Tampa Bay Lightning for winning that game, because I don't think anyone else would have won it. Maybe
Yeah,
they're
probably
Columbus
right.
Dragons, who they were
Maybe.
playing.
Or someone else. I don't know.
Someone was going to run it. Anyway, thank you very much for watching the 8th episode of the B&E podcast. I'm Evan Kamiko, joined by Bryce Gelman. We'll see you next week.
'Cause I'm better off on my own. Go save your soul. You don't wanna go